everyone. So again, welcome to our weekly giving season session. I'm Jenna, I'm the nonprofit advocate here at Donorbox, and today I am joined by Kara, our fabulous fundraising coach here at Donorbox, and Emily, our account manager here at Donorbox.
Hey guys, good to see you.
Well, I know the moment you were waiting for. What are we talking about today? Well, today we're talking about something that's easy to dismiss during a busy giving season, but it is so important. Today we are talking about segmentation and how that can boost relationship building with your best supporters. When you communicate to everyone, you're not really communicating to anyone. Your supporters expect personalization, and nonprofits that stick to communicating to absolutely everyone in the same way risk losing their most valuable donors. So today we're talking all about segmentation and how to create a personalized experience for your donors at year end. But first, in our classic style, we have a poll question for you, and I'm going to launch that now. And you should see that in the right-hand side. Do you segment your donor list? So I asked this question maybe last week or the week before on LinkedIn because we had a podcast episode on segmentation, Kara and I was kind of surprised by the results. So once we get everybody's responses in, I'll share what I got off of LinkedIn. And they're still going. We're kind of across the board here, you guys. So different from LinkedIn so far. So when I launched this poll, 71% of respondees said yes, they do segment their donor lists. 5% said nope, not at all. Don't do any segmenting. 10 said kind of, a little bit here, not so much there, have a little bit going on. And then 14% asked, what is segmentation? And that actually surprised me. So we're going to break that down a little bit, build a great case for segmentation, and talk about why it's so good for your organization. And let's see here. We got 22% yes, 17% no, 22% kind of, and 39% what is it? So you're in the right place today. We're going to answer that for you. Thanks, everyone, for those responses. I really appreciate it. So I will start with yet another question for everyone. And please chime in the chat. Do you have someone in your life that always makes you feel seen or makes you feel special? Why is that? And what do they do? So I'll start. My dad makes me feel super special almost every day. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but he sends me email articles about things that he thinks I would be interested in. He follows newsletters that he wouldn't necessarily like just so he can send them to me. So it's the sweetest thing ever. I look forward to those emails every day because he's sending me things that I like. So let us know in the chat. Who makes you feel seen or special, and what do they do that makes you feel that way? Mm-hmm. Friends that pop in with a text just to say hello. Yeah, that's sweet. Well,
yes, here's a good one. Appreciating the work you've done. Yes, that always feels so good.
Coworkers who check in when I'm out sick. Yeah, super thoughtful. Absolutely.
I think too, when you get a birthday note or text from somebody that's not, didn't just have a reminder on Facebook or something, when that they remembered, is really kind of cool too. Yeah, specific. Yeah, when somebody's speaking specifically to you, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, nonprofit leaders, founders, and fundraisers can make a big difference in their organization by making their supporters feel like this. I'll have to share another one. My daughter, she always shares what she does daily and new things she's learned. She always gives me positive affirmations. I love that. Aww. So sweet. Thank you so much for sharing, you guys. So you can make your supporters feel this way too. Make them feel special, feel seen, like they are one in a million. It's obviously very impactful when you're one-on-one with your supporter or one-on-one with someone who appreciates you just like this. And you can learn more about them, what motivates them, and share where those might intersect with what you've got going on at your organization. And when you have more than just a couple of donors, though, it can seem really intimidating to invest in this level of personalization. How can you do this? Well, the good news is this can be done on a larger scale. So, Kara, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Yeah, and you're right. It can be done on a larger scale, and there are some ways that can really simulate that experience, especially when you have a large donor base. And some tips. So first, personalize your communication as much as possible. So we always say, "Dear friend, dear donor," and a note from you is never really a great practice, especially when you have that information. So make sure that you're using people's names. I know it always resonates when someone actually uses my name. And there are some other ways you can segment, and we're going to talk about those in a little bit. But I really want to encourage you as we talk about this and you think through segmentation and segmenting your donors. Think outside the traditional segmentation box, and it takes some deep thinking sometimes. It takes more than just mentioning the name, like we said, is really important. It could be mentioning a previous gift or a pattern. Emily and I met with a Donorbox organization this morning, and they have a number of readers of their newsletter that open their newsletter but aren't donors. And so that might be a logical segment for them to communicate to. Hey, know you're enjoying the content. Would you step up and give this year? So you can take the time to curate your communication to suit your supporters. You could talk to them in ways that meet their needs or talk about their interests or their demographics. And those are just some ways that you can help them feel seen. And I know some of you mentioned, hey, what is segmentation? Well, our textbook definition of segment is this. It's the process of dividing your supporters into groups based on similarities so that you can tailor your messaging and communication. You know, each of your donors is an individual. They have unique passions and unique interests. And so why would you communicate with your entire donor population like they're all the same? It is a little unrealistic, like Jenna mentioned, to send each donor their own letter or email each time you want to talk to them, but it's not impossible to have that same effect on a larger scale. And it's really not impossible at all to target your communications more effectively using these segments. So grouping similar donors together takes time, a little bit of time on the front end that we're working on right now, but it really will pay off. It is an excellent idea for two main reasons, and here they are, right? It saves time. It's a time saver. While segmentation does require that time on the front end to sort your list and do that kind of thing, it's more effective over the long run. It helps your organization address people directly involved in supporting your organization in the ways that they support you. And it really does improve your interactions with them. And it makes your audience more likely to respond favorably. If messaging comes across as too generic, people will be more likely to ignore it. So segmentation ensures that the messaging is appropriate for each group, meaning the recipients will become more interested in the content. And your communication efforts will be more successful when the recipients of your efforts feel that you've taken the time to get to know them. And these are some typical ways organizations segment donors. And you can cut and shape hundreds of different segments, and just depending on how you want to slice up your data. So they'll sort them by demographics, maybe where they live or their gender or something like that. Their donation history is probably the most typical, especially at year end. So if they gave last year but haven't given this year, you would want to communicate to them that way. Or if they haven't made a gift in a number of years to your organization, they're a lapsed donor, you'd want to communicate to them a little differently as well. As opposed to a donor who's given 2 gifts already this year, you might want to engage them in a conversation about becoming a monthly recurring donor. Also, you have your organization history. So how have they been involved? Have they attended an event? You can speak to that. We talked about people who open your monthly newsletter. Speak to that as well. Hey, Jenna, I know that you've been enjoying the content. So just let them know that you're seeing how they are engaging with your organization. And then communication preference. If you have people in your organization that mail you a check every year, communicate with them through the mail. And if you have people who only give digitally, who give using their credit card online, maybe email is the best communication for them. So you can communicate with them based on their communication preference with you. And we have some reports in Donorbox that will help you kind of sift through this data. And so Emily is going to show us a little bit more about those.
Thank you. So like Kara said, it's definitely a time saver to segment this in advance. So one of the wonderful things about Donorbox, it's still in its testing beta phase, so we'd love feedback from all of you Donorbox users. But under the Engage on your left-hand panel there's now a button that says Reports, and then it says Beta in parentheses. So basically, it's similar to what it does if you go under campaigns and pull those reports, but there's less work to do on your end because we already have these set up for you in the reports. So you don't have to do extra work essentially. So one that we wanted to do just for an example is the LIBUNT, which stands for last year, but unfortunately not this year. So that's one of the reports you can pull. This would be donors who gave last year but haven't given this year in the calendar year yet. That doesn't mean they're a lost cause. They just might need reaching out that has a different messaging to it. So reports like that provide, a list of donors who gave during that year. Oh, that's the same thing I just. So, okay, if we can go to the next slide, we'll go. I have my. Okay, here we go. Okay, so yes, this report last year, but not this year, not yet this year. So this is also helpful because it gives you a list of donors whose contact information you may have lost. If they haven't given yet, you may not have been reaching out to them throughout the year. So you can use it to connect with more lapsed donors. It's a great idea to find out from them why they left. If you just kind of want to get a temperature check with them, that'll be something that's helpful to your organization. And that can kind of give you a data-driven approach, like we were saying, to strategize.
And I think the next one is our practical action. So thank you so much, Emily. So all you are here because you are Donorbox users. You got this invite because you're a Donorbox user, which means that you have, and I'll go back just one more time so you can see where to find it. So you have access to running these reports. LIBUNT is a great one to try out as your very first segment, perhaps. Easy to know how to reach out to those folks. Hey, you've given to us before. This is the impact that you've had. This is the change that you made. And create a segment just for those people. Very easy just to click on that button and download that information. So thank you, Emily, for walking us through that. So I've always said that sorting out your segments is a lot like being an investigator. It takes a lot of finding trends, like those who gave last year, but unfortunately not this, or those who prefer that social media or communication preference, like Kara said, those who give in a certain way. So your weekly practical action for today is to sort out your data. So for additional sorting outside of Donorbox's new reports, you can go to the manage and then donations from there. And then you can pull a variety of reports to sort out your additional data. So go ahead and check out your Donorbox dashboard and see all those different parameters that you can set and pull to look at that data. And maybe try starting with creating 3 different segments this week. So again, it could be the LIBUNT, it could be monthly givers, it could be something else where you're seeing a trend, and create language around that.
Yeah, especially at this time of year end, I wouldn't go overboard and create more than a couple, 3, 4, 5 at the most. Because it's going to be harder for you to keep track of those communication pieces. So keep it simple to make the lift a little easier on your end.
Now we are opening the floor up to you. As always, we try to keep our sessions when we're talking to you to 15 minutes so that we can honor your time and take any questions that you have. So please, any questions you have about segmenting or any advice or tips you'd like to share with others, how you've segmented your lists, any Giving Tuesday or fundraising questions in general, we are all yours until 1:30. So what do you consider a large donor base? That is an interesting question. Kara, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it really just depends. There are large organizations like St. Jude's and the Red Cross that would have hundreds and thousands or more in the donor base. That's not typical for most organizations. I would say a large donor base. I've worked for organizations that have between lapsed and current, maybe 10,000. And that seems like that's a lot. I think I would say anything over 1,000, I would consider a decent size donor base. It really just depends on the size and the age of your organization, though, and what you're able to manage as far as you're keeping up. I guess the question is maybe why are you asking that question? I would love to know what inspired that question. Are you kind of teetering on small to large and wondering how to handle those segments? You can segment a small donor base just as much as a big donor base, especially if in spreadsheets, if you know spreadsheets pretty well, it's easy to kind of slice and dice that data. But that's a question. I would say anything over 1,000. I think under 1,000 I would consider probably a small donor base.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, Kara, it depends on the organization. If you are a one-person show, then a large donor base could be 100 people, depending on, you are nourishing all those sort of supportive relationships. Yeah. So it really just depends. So Cecilia says it was spurred by a reference you made to personalizing communications.
Yeah. And what I meant was, if you have, Emily, the organization we talked with this morning, I can't remember how many they had. I think they had like 65 or 70 active donors. Does that sound right?
Yeah, their database.
It was less than 100. Yeah. And in that case, sometimes it's easy to do like a mail merge out of your own email box and customize it that way, or even send one-off emails when you're talking to groups of 10.
Yeah.
It's more manageable. You can knock that out in an afternoon, honestly. If you get over, if you get into the hundreds and things like that, you're going to need an email provider really to deliver those segments a little more easily, like a MailChimp or something like that. So that's what inspired that comment there. But you can communicate using segments and emails specifically. You can create 3 emails that are similar and just deliver them to different segments. So to the people who open your newsletters but haven't yet given, you can communicate to them in that one. And you're using the same core email, same core content in your email, but you're just adjusting a few lines to just personalize it up a little bit more. Last year's donors who haven't given this year, you could say, hey, Emily, because you gave, and you can answer the last year's overall giving amount, because you gave $500 last year, this program delivered this to these people. Would you give to make that happen again this year? And so you can customize it that way. So you just named her, you indicated that how much she gave, you're grateful for it, it made a big impact, and then you're asking her to donate again. So Cecilia, you're a small nonprofit with all volunteers. Yeah, whatever you can custom, and that's a great one it's a great segment, volunteers, and speaking to that because you give hours each week, this happens. Would you step in to give? You can definitely do that.
Yeah. And to confirm, Cecilia, yes. And that's a great question coming from Julia, kind of a nice segue. How do you track who received which segment of outreach? And there are some different ways to do that, but depending on what tech tools you're using, what CRM you're using, how you're tracking your communications in general. If you are using an email provider, say like MailChimp, you are setting different campaigns already. So if you are using a CRM, you're tagging people with the tag LiveBunt or monthly donor. You're creating tags for those people so that you're creating those groups. And then when you're sending that in your email campaign, you're going to tag that group specifically with that language made for them. So maybe, like Kara said, you have one newsletter, but you just need to adjust a little bit of that language so it caters towards those people. Hey, your monthly giving has created such an impact because of this. Hey, you haven't given in a while. You were so great when you did whatever that may be, right? So you can track by naming your campaigns, different names, so that you know that, but also use, even if it's just a spreadsheet, we use Airtable here to keep track of what emails or communications are going out and when. So it's just a matter of doing the work and recording those things so you can look back and make sure that nobody's missed out and that you're not resending things that you've sent before. Kara, I'm sure you have more to add on to that as the project manager in you. So I'll pass it over to you.
Well, that was really great, Jenna. I think too, you can usually, some CRMs, or whatever database system you're recording, you can usually export that information back in and say, you sent an email on this date, about this. And so that you're keeping track of that as well. But just make sure that, if you're checking for duplicates, if you're using spreadsheets, especially, that, Emily's not receiving all 3 versions of your email, because that would have a poor reflection. And put yourself on every copy of the email too, so that and make sure you test it a few times so that you know how it looks and how it reads, or maybe send it to a close friend or something and ask them to eyeball it for you.
Yep, absolutely.
And
Good
Cecilia,
question.
yes, a boilerplate email that you personalize to different segments, absolutely. I don't think you need to recreate the wheel every time, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And Cecilia asks one last question. What percentage return do you consider a good return per 100 asks? What do you think, Kara?
It depends on the channel. Email usually has mail usually has a 5% response rate. And that depends on the donor segment you're writing to. So if these are last year's donors, their response rate's going to be a little higher than if they're non-donors, or they're kind of cold to the organization. That response rate could be pretty low. Email has a typical 1% response, but there are some really good ways that you can boost your response rates. We have at Donorbox, if you go to the resources and on our website, there's webinars that talk about direct mail hacks that can boost your response rates through mail. We have a podcast episode on email that might give you some ideas on how to do that. Here's the trick. Here's the secret sauce. Personalization boosts response rates significantly, like, 200% or something. And then multi-channel campaigns. So when you are mailing your prospective donors something, you're emailing them something, they're seeing it on social media, they're seeing it because you called them or they're attending an event, and it's that same core messaging they're hearing over and over, that response rate goes up 300%. So use all the channels that are available to you. We work through that with you in that course too. We help you create the content, that core messaging, and then syndicate it out through those channels. So if you are stuck there, that's a good place to look too. So,
yep. Absolutely. So again, everyone, you can head over to donorbox.org, and in that top menu bar, there is a resources tab. It is a drop-down menu, and you can check out some of the many resources that we have available so that you can study a little bit. All right. Well, we are half past the hour. I want to thank you all for spending a little bit of your time with us every week here during these weekly giving season sessions. And on behalf of all of us here at Donorbox, we want to thank you for all that you do to serve others. We are so proud to provide the resources you need to do so. And thank you, Kara and Emily, for being here today.
Thank you.